Welcome to Beyond the Corporate Mask with Suzanne Assam and Emma Templing, a podcast with honest conversations about work, presence, and the parts of ourselves we've been told to hide.
Hello and welcome back to Beyond the Corporate Mask. I'm Suzanne and today we have a very special episode. We will be diving into the inner critic. That voice we all know, that sometimes whispers and sometimes shouts and often tells you we are not enough. And to help us explore this, we have Nadine with us. Nadine has navigated her own relationship with the inner critic, and through embodied practices, she found ways to listen to it without letting it take over. Welcome, Nadine.
Hi, Susanna. Happy to be here today.
Yeah, great that you're here. So let's start at the beginning. Can you introduce yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. So, hi, everybody. My name is Nadine. I am 24 years old now. I was born in Germany, but I grew up all over the world. I moved around every 3 to 4 years. And now I'm living in the Netherlands, working as a learning and development advisor. And I'm happily have been doing so for the past year.
Okay, nice. So like I said, we're going to talk about the inner critic and also how you navigated or still navigate your relationship with your own inner critic. So maybe to start with, can you share a little bit, if you remember, when you first noticed that critical voice?
Yeah, I think for me, it started quite early around elementary school. I think I had just moved from a large international school to a very small local school from Egypt to Germany. And that was also when I first started getting bullied. And I think that was a bit of the kickstart for this critical voice. You know, I was always hearing my friends, in quotation marks, say that I'm not invited to the birthday party or they don't want to hang out with me. And I've started realizing, oh, maybe it's my fault. Maybe I didn't do something. Maybe I wasn't fun enough. So yeah, the social environment kind of kicked it off for me in the beginning.
Yeah, I can totally imagine that. I mean, moving from one country to another, a new school, new friends, and then, of course, being bullied. That must have been really, really hard for you.
Yeah, it was kind of a bit of a chameleon lifestyle I had to lead. You know, every 3 to 4 years, I was ripped out of my comfort zone and I had to entirely reestablish myself. So also finding a full sense of who I was very largely dependent on my environment. It wasn't easy.
Yeah. So that was the moment that you say you first started hearing that voice, and like you said, it was saying things like, "You're not good enough. You're not invited. You don't belong." Can you say a little bit more about what it was saying exactly to you?
Yeah, it was often about the social engagement that I was showing. So it was a bit like a stern teacher voice that I was hearing almost. Like, you have to be funnier, you have to be more social. You know, there was one situation where the girls in my class really wanted to do this dress up party, for example, for a birthday. And I wasn't super into that, but the inner critic voice said, no, you have to like this. You need to, be fun enough at this pretty birthday party so that you get to be safe and you get to be part of the group. And also a lot of times it was about my academic achievements. I was always a kid with pretty good grades. And when I would sometimes bring a medium or mediocre grade back home, that voice would kick in again and say, oh, you should have studied harder. You should have done more exercises and then you would have gotten a better grade. You can do better than this. So there was always more to do according to the inner critic voice.
Yeah, you always had to be better. If it was for, it could mean better grades, but also you need to act and be a better friend and things like that.
Yeah, very much so. Yeah.
So, and this was, what was your age at that time?
I think I was maybe only between 7 to 10 years old, something pretty early on, actually.
Yeah, that you first started to notice it, and yeah. And okay, and then what happened? I mean, you said something about your academic career, and what happened after, yeah, when you grew up?
Yeah. It pretty much became a part of who I was, that inner critic voice. Especially in the academic career, I was always and still am pretty ambitious. I always want to do a lot of projects, get good grades, be involved. And the whole ambition from the inner critic carried through high school as well and all the way into college. I mean, in high school, for example, I was part of Model United Nations, which was a student event. And I was leading a committee during Model United Nations. And even then, my inner critic voice was saying, oh no, you have to also be a staff member at the next conference. And you have to do all of your speeches without any notes because nobody's going to take you seriously if you have your notes. And in college, same thing. I was chair of a student association, and also there, every time I had a public speaking event or a meeting, it was always perform perfectly, do this exact behavior, and then people will like you and people will listen to you. So it really was something that I internalized, and for a long time, still now, I sometimes struggle to differentiate that inner critic voice from the positive voice in my head. It really started taking over everything that I was doing.
Okay, that's interesting, because is the voice then always a negative voice?
Well, I think sometimes, I say she because that's how I have personalized the voice in my head. But I think sometimes she was also intending to protect me. I remember in college there was a lot of social events, of course, as it happens in most universities. And sometimes that inner critic voice would kick in of like, no, you shouldn't go to this party. You're gonna be, alone. You're gonna be in the corner. And at the end, it was good for me that I wouldn't go to some of these parties because I would protect my energy and I would be able to function better the next day. But this is only something that I realized afterwards, is like, oh, she was protecting me. She was trying to help and keep me safe.
Yeah. Okay. So you would say that this voice was. Why do you think this voice came up?
I think it really was part of the social environment that I grew up in. Maybe it was also then in high school and college a comfortable aspect. I knew the voice. I knew how to work with it. And the social environment of bullying and not having good friends carried on for so long, almost throughout 10 years of my life, that at some point I really didn't know what else there was. So it started from the social environment and then solidified because it became the only thing I knew.
Yeah. And when you say it also made me feel comfortable, can you say a little bit more about that? I mean, of course, you say it was the only thing I knew, but how does that make you feel comfortable then?
Yeah, it made me feel comfortable because it was repeated over and over, because this inner critic voice I would hear daily. So after a while, she wasn't really my friend yet, but she was a constant companion. Maybe it's even almost like she was in the driver's seat for a while, that my inner critic was the reason I was so ambitious and was a large part of why I got to all of the cool projects and jobs that I was able to do. So it was a complex dynamic. I knew that it was too strict sometimes, but I also knew that it was helping me get to cool places.
Yeah, I can see that. So on one hand, you did benefit from it, and indeed you had the nice projects and the good grades, and you were seen for that. But what did it cost you? Because you say it's a constant thing. It's an inner critic. Sometimes, most of the time, it tends to be a little bit negative. What did this voice cost you?
Now where I understand it better and I know and can see the behavior that came from the inner critic voice, I think it cost me a lot of energy and a lot of joy, especially with the social interactions. Probably the people around me wanted to be my friends, but because of the inner critic voice, I was telling myself it's not possible. So I'm pretty sure I missed out on a few friendships as well. And the joy aspect is really a huge thing that I've now noticed, that for the longest time, I wasn't able to be proud of myself for any of my achievements because of the inner critic voice. So I would have an amazing day at college or at work, and I would have gotten so much done and I would have gotten so much external praise. But instead of just celebrating that at the end of the day, I still go over, oh, this could have been better and you should have done this quicker. And this is something where you messed up a little bit. So all of that joy of having achieved something was gone, basically. And especially the exhausting aspect of draining energy comes from the fact that still now, as I'm learning to work with her a bit better, it literally makes the day feel twice as long. If I'm constantly running around in my own head, hearing this inner critic voice, it's not just one feedback conversation or one meeting. It's like 45 plus minutes of ruminating around what I could have done different.
Yeah. Do you have the feeling that you're constant under that feedback? Yeah, that you're constantly getting feedback from it and constantly being criticized?
Yeah, absolutely. It's better now because I've obviously developed some techniques and some visualizations and some practices for myself that have made it easier to handle.
Yeah, we will dive into that in a bit. But I would also like to hear a little bit more about, because of course you are in the learning and development field, that is your work. You come inside a lot of corporate organizations, business organizations. What is the impact of this inner critic in the workplace, or how you work together with colleagues, etc.?
For me personally, it has a generally disruptive impact, I feel, because something that helps me notice when the inner critic voice is taking over is that my hands start getting really sweaty and I start feeling my thoughts drift away. I have a harder time focusing on meetings. I forget certain details of a conversation with a colleague. And it also makes me in general feel less capable to deal with ad hoc issues or unexpected changes. So, for example, when I have to write an email, I am sometimes super good with phrasing it. But when the inner critic voice comes in, I sit there like a hunchback at my desk with super tense shoulders, a scrunched up face, and then the email also doesn't flow as well. I have less vocabulary to actually express what it is that I need because I'm constantly overthinking it.
Yeah, so it's funny that you literally make yourself smaller. I see you doing that. You make yourself smaller when you talk about that. So you also say I have sweaty hands and your breath is a little bit more up, and so it also really has a physical impact, Anna.
It really does. I think that is the biggest helpful thing that I noticed is the physical reaction to my inner critic is so tense and so protective of myself that I can see it's not serving me as much as it used to anymore. because I get tense shoulders. I come home from work and I feel like I haven't drank any water all day because my head is pounding.
Yeah.
Especially in conversations with colleagues, I notice myself stuttering or, speaking really fast and basically saying nothing, even though I know exactly what I want to say. With the inner critic taking over the driver's seat again, I can't say it. I am physically incapable of expressing myself how I know I am able to.
Yeah. 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 So in that sense, you now see and feel that it's holding you back.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas it's actually interesting, whereas it all started because that inner critic was helping you to push through and to be more ambitious and to be better, etc. Now actually it's holding you back.
Mm-hmm.
What was the moment that you thought, I want to do something about that?
I think it was around the time I graduated and started my first proper big girl job, because I had been pushing like this for so long, just ignoring the energy that it was draining. And I realized it wasn't sustainable anymore. I had been doing 3 years of talking therapy, so no medications or anything, with a holistic therapist. And she was wonderful because we also did some breath work and a little bit of physical exercises. But after 3 years of that, even though I felt more equipped to handle all of the mental considerations, it didn't stick. I feel like I constantly had to start over. And so when I started working in the real job, I realized I don't want to feel like this anymore. I want to be able to celebrate my achievements. And in order to do that, I had to face the inner critic voice instead of constantly letting her run the show or turn away from her.
Yeah, because when you did that, talking, therapy, coaching, etc., and you say, that's, I have the feeling that did not stick. Why do you think that is the case? That it doesn't stick?
Yeah, I think that you cannot think your way out of something so complex as the inner critic, because it, like you said, it helped me in the past, and now I'm realizing it's not serving me as much anymore. And that's not a complex, like that's a complex issue. That is a very personal situation where you have to try different things and you have to really feel what the different attempts do to you. Because like I described, the inner critic voice also had physical effects on me, like tensing my shoulders and making it hard to breathe. And so I realized that through talking, I wasn't going to get rid or be able to better handle those physical effects. So I would have to feel my way through it in a way.
Yeah, yeah. So, of course, I know that you worked a lot with embodied leadership and somatic practices to indeed see and feel the inner critic and what it does to you. Can you tell us a little bit more about that? So, what did you do, and what was for you a breakthrough moment in navigating this inner critic?
Yeah, I did first and foremost the centering exercise that is pretty core to embodied leadership and embodied work, which has to do with bringing yourself back to the present moment. And a visual that I was given by another coach, Boudewijn, he is also known to Doors Open, I believe, is to enter the white space. So it's literally just a picture with a blank white space in the middle, and then either dark blue or gray squiggles around it. And through centering and feeling my breath in my stomach, feeling how solid my feet are on the floor or how my back feels against the chair, I was able to find my way out of all of those dark gray squiggles, which were the negative thoughts, the inner critic, the anxiety, and just be for one moment in that white space. And it would give me the freedom to settle and reorganize myself and then move into the meeting. the email, the task. It just gives me that breath for one moment. And that was really a big aha moment for me, because I realized that, oh, I don't need to have thoughts. It's okay to just exist for one moment and let your body settle into whatever context you have, and then move forward.
Yeah, so we use that somatic practice a lot within Doors Open, of course, as well. And what you're describing is that you, by focusing on your body, in this case your breath, and center your body, so feet on the floor, ground yourself, you're not focusing on your inner thoughts, and you're not focusing on that inner critic voice. So basically what you're doing is you push the pause button, but instead of listening to the thoughts, you're listening to, hey, what's going on in my body and what is happening there. And that opens up space in your body, first of all. And then the thoughts that keep on going, they calm down as well. And then when you're calmed down, when your nervous system is calmed down, then you're able to think clearly again. Is that how you also recognize it?
Fully exactly like that. It just feels as though I actually physically have a breath of fresh air coming through my mind and my body, because like you described it, all of those thoughts trying to fight their way to the front row aren't really worth my time. Most of the situations, they are just thoughts. They are not the truth. And by also doing something called an eye stretch, which is literally just stretching your eyes in different directions for 30 seconds each, I'm relieving the pressure on my brainstem, and that also actually on a biological level gives my brain more oxygen to better process the thoughts. So those are the two practices that help me a lot, that I try to do daily, actually.
Yeah, that's nice that you do that. And what the eye stretch also does, and we will put the audio of the eye stretch practice in the show notes, but what it also does is it is calming down and relaxing the nervous vagus, which opens up more possibility in your body and more openness, and it calms down your nervous system. Because the inner critic is trying to protect you when you don't feel safe, and when you are able to calm down your nervous system, it lowers that inner voice. So what I like as well is that you say, I try to do these things daily. Because for a long, long time, you have really practiced and gave room to the inner critic. So it became a pattern for you.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
I think that's also why it's so hard to dismantle. Sorry to interrupt. Just realizing that I've been living with this inner voice in the driver's seat for almost, I guess, 15 years now.
Yeah.
That's hard to let go of, because I described it again in the beginning. It was comfortable. It was what I know. Yeah. And now doing these practices sometimes is still uncomfortable because it's unknown, but it's still good to go through that discomfort and keep trying.
Yeah. And it's also, I think, is really about being committed to do this, and to really wanting to change this pattern, and to change your behavior. Can you tell us a little bit about how that process is for you? Because I know that when you start doing this work, you're really changing certain automatic behavior and patterns that you have. And indeed, what you're saying, sometimes that old pattern may not be really helpful, but it is comfortable. And to change that behavior, that can be really difficult. How was that for you?
Difficult is a good way to describe it, because I already said it in the beginning. This is not a type of thing where you go from A to B and then it's solved. You have to go from A to A1, and then maybe a lowercase a, and then eventually you end up at B. And that was
it's not linear, huh?
Exactly. Yeah, it's not linear. And the process, like I said, started for me when I had that realization of, oh, I've been in therapy for 3 years. It hasn't helped me as much as I wanted it to. What else is there to try?
Yeah.
And I used to do yoga when I was a little kid, and it was also helpful to just calm the physical body. And through a lot of research also for my thesis, which I wrote about the neuroscience behind unconscious biases and a lot of interest in that general neuroscientific field, I found embodied leadership and started working with it. And the commitment started forming when I felt the centering effects for the first time. I vividly remember, I think maybe it was even when I first met you that we did it together. And that immediate feeling of, oh, there's space. There's literally physical space around me that I can use. That's when I said, I want to feel like this all the time. I want to love myself and respect myself and keep chasing this feeling of capable and confident, because that is something that I struggled with for a long time, is being confident. And by trying something small every single day, I'm sticking to my commitment of do what you can. You don't have to be perfect and overperform all the time, but just do something small. Do one eye stretch. It literally takes a minute. Or do a centering exercise. That also doesn't take more than 5 if you do it through all 4 dimensions. And it gives me power to know that I have the ability to do something about my well-being and my ability to show up as my true self. It's not always 100%, but if I have 50% to give during a day and I give those 50%, then I can finally be happy with that.
Yeah, that's nice. And because you talk about your commitment, and how important is having that commitment to yourself to go through this process?
For me, I think it's crucial, because if you don't have a reason why or some goal that you're working towards, even if you don't know what it looks like, you're not going to want to move. You're not going to want to keep going. So if there is no commitment, I don't think there can be as much progress either. And it gives me something, like I said, to hold on to.
Yeah. Because like we said, it's not easy to be in that process, to change your behavior that is so familiar. And you just said one thing that I think is also important. Sometimes you don't know where you're heading towards. You know your old behavior, you know your old pattern, you perfectly know your inner critic, but then you let go of that, and then what? You don't know what's next. How is that to be in that space? We call it the unbounded space, but how was that for you?
Ooh, it was uncomfortable in the beginning. It was so scary, because I literally felt like I was at a complete loss of identity at first, because I didn't know anything besides the inner critic sitting at the head of the table. And now all of a sudden I was like trying to do other things. And it still hits me sometimes in the sense of, oh, you don't know what you're doing. You don't know what is at the end of the tunnel. But that becomes less scary the more I do it, because in some way it's also exciting to not really know the perfect image that you're working towards, because that would again be a pressure point, right? And something that has helped me in this consistent process of again and again facing the same unhealthy patterns or having the same conversation with myself of maybe don't listen to the inner critic as much, is really the visual of her being a person, or a being in my head. And instead of having her sit at the driver's seat or sit at the head of the table, I now invite her to sit a little bit further away at the table. Like, she still gets to have a space because she protected me and she helped me form a lot of the ambitious patterns that are still useful. But, she's dominated the party for long enough. She's had the birthday seat for long enough, and now it's my turn to do that.
Yeah, yeah. Would you say that you now have befriended her? That she, because you say she's still there. She's still at the table.
I think befriending her is actually a really great way to describe it. Yeah, I would say so, because in the beginning, I was constantly trying to fight her. Like, oh no, don't be anxious. Don't be critical. Don't put yourself down. Yeah, but then I was essentially fighting a huge part of what I am and how I grew up, which was also exhausting, because then you're trying to resist, or I was trying to resist what is actually there.
Yeah.
And instead, this befriending her is a really great way of saying it, because it's much easier and much less painful in a way.
Yeah. Yeah. And I also think when you befriend your inner critic, it gets less loud. It's less there, I think. But what we tend to do is, we don't want to hear it. We want to get rid of it. And then it becomes even louder, I think.
Yeah, it's like when you try to push a ball underwater, it just pops up even stronger and smacks you in the face even.
Yeah. Yeah, though I think that's really true. I, of course, have seen your whole journey from, really listening to that inner critic and what it did to you, to where you are now. Indeed, befriending your inner critic, and what it also did to your presence, and how you how you are in your work. For me, I really see the difference, and I see now really a centered, embodied person that has more confidence, and I say, is really present. I think better connections. That is what I see, as somebody working with you and looking at you. But how does that feel for you?
It feels so warm in my chest to hear you say this, because that's also how I feel, especially the connection part. That is such a huge thing that has improved in my life. I have a much smaller circle, which I always thought would be a bad thing. But in reality, those smaller circle connections they give me energy. They are helpful. They are enjoyable. And they feel more true to who I am now. Like you said, it's really a mix of building confidence and also gaining self-respect, of not tolerating negative friendships or shallow friendships or toxic work relationships or anything like that. It's finally living true to what I know I deserve and what I know I can do.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. It's also nice to see, for me, it really feels like you have put off that mask that you were wearing, maybe fueled by that inner critic, but now we can see the real and authentic Nadine. And that is really powerful.
Yeah, it feels powerful. I have to say, I used to always be so afraid to let myself be the true Nadine because of the inner critic and because of the social environment. And up until last year, I didn't even realize how many character traits I was suppressing. You know, I'm actually quite sassy, for example, or I am fairly outspoken. And those are all things that I started to do more of the less I heard her, or the less loudly I heard my inner critic voice. It was really freeing, liberating in a way.
Yeah. Nice. Is there anything that you would give as a piece of advice for people who are dealing with this inner critic?
Two things, I think. The first thing that really was an aha moment for me is what I said earlier, is you are not your thoughts. They are just thoughts. They are not your true identity. And you get to decide which ones you listen to and which ones you give the power. So that's one advice that I would give. And the second one is be patient with yourself and be nice to yourself. This is, like you mentioned, basically a dismantling of patterns that you've lived with for 10, 15, 20, however many years, that's going to suck at first because you have to be brave to go through the unknown. So be patient. If it doesn't work one day, that's all right. If you don't do your centering exercise 3 times a day, but only twice, that's okay. You did it. You kept practicing.
Yeah. As we always say, take it easy, but take it.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Thank you, Nadine, for this conversation. It was really lovely to have you in this episode and to hear about your journey and how you navigate your inner critic. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me. It was really lovely to chat.
Great. So what we will do in the show notes, you can find all the somatic practices that we have mentioned, the eye stretch and the centering exercise. And remember, listening to the inner critic doesn't mean giving it control. It's about choosing your response consciously, in your body, with awareness. Thank you for tuning in to Beyond the Corporate Mask. Until next time, keep taking off the mask, one breath, one step, one word at a time. Leadership doesn't have to be exhausting. If you need to pause, reconnect with your body, and experience how embodied leadership can help you make clearer decisions, hold boundaries, and lead without hiding yourself, join us for the next edition of the Embodied Leadership Retreat. Details are in the show notes.
You've been listening to Beyond the Corporate Mask. Remember, your body has the answers. So let's start unpacking who you are and who you're ready to become.